Which artist gained international fame in a world dominated by men? Was given the first female solo show at the Museum of Modern Art? Received a Medal of Freedom from President Gerald Ford? Loved collecting dead animal bones? And knew she wanted to be an artist by the age of 11? That would be the one and only Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe was born on November 15, 1887, on a dairy farm in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. She was the second of 7 children. O'Keeffe's mom encouraged her children to become well educated, and she even arranged art and music lessons for her kids. Georgia played both the violin and piano. Art appreciation was definitely a family thing, since both her grandmothers and 2 of her sisters also enjoyed painting. By age 11, O'Keeffe knew she wanted to be an artist. She continued to study at Sacred Heart Academy in Madison, Wisconsin. In 1902, her family relocated to Virginia, where her father hoped to get into the concrete block business. O'Keeffe lived with her aunt in the meantime in Wisconsin until she finally joined them in 1903. O'Keeffe then enrolled in the Chatham Episcopal Institute boarding school. She taught other students how to play poker, was constantly doing practical jokes, and drew caricatures of her teachers. Her art teacher, Miss Willis, was amazed and recognized Georgia's talent and allowed her to work at her own pace. After graduating in 1905, she was enrolled at the Art Institute of Chicago, where she studied with John Vanderpool and was ranked top of her class. Unfortunately, O'Keeffe contracted typhoid fever and had to take a year off from her education. In 1907, she attended the Art Students League in New York City, where she studied under many great artists. In 1908, she even won the William Merritt Chase Prize for her still life titled Dead Rabbit with Copper Pot. In 1908, O'Keeffe discovered she could not afford to finance her studies. Her father had gone bankrupt with the concrete block business not panning out, and her mother was seriously ill. O'Keeffe took a job in Chicago as a commercial artist until 1910, when she returned to Virginia. She didn't paint for 4 years, and even said at the time the smell of turpentine made her feel sick. But in 1912, she took a summer art class at the University of Virginia with Alan Beaumont, who introduced her to Wassily Kandinsky's book On the Spiritual in Art, stressing the importance of inner emotions. Through her exploration and growth as an artist, she helped establish the American Modernism movement. She began to develop a personal style that veered away from realism. By the way, did you know O'Keeffe was once an art teacher? Yep, she taught at many locations, including the art department at West Texas State Normal College in 1916. Instead of sticking to lesson plans, O'Keeffe insisted that art education be based on self-expression rather than copying or mimicking. O'Keeffe developed a passion for intense colors, sunrises and sunsets. She continued to experiment until she truly captured her feelings in this watercolor painting, Light Coming on the Plains #1 in 1917. In 1918, O'Keeffe moved to New York. The famous photographer Alfred Stieglitz came up again, who admired her work, offered financial support, a place to stay, and a studio for her to paint in. They developed a close relationship, and O'Keeffe eventually, but reluctantly, married him. Stieglitz, some 23 years older than O'Keeffe, promoted her and her work, and he took over 300 photographic portraits of her. Soon after, O'Keeffe began simplifying images of natural things, such as leaves, flowers, and rocks. She began to experiment with perspective, painting large-scale close-ups of flowers, the first of which was Petunia #2, followed by Black Iris and Oriental Poppies. O'Keeffe had a very interesting perspective about painting flowers, when she said, and I quote, "If I could paint the flower exactly as I see it, no one would see what I see. I'll paint it big, and they will be surprised and take time to look at it. I will make even busy New Yorkers take time to see what I see of flowers." These paintings were exhibited in 1925, and they sold for astronomical prices. O'Keeffe at this point definitely was having financial success. O'Keeffe also turned her artistic eye to New York City skyscrapers, the symbol of modernity, in paintings such as City Night, Shelton Hotel, and New York #1. Following numerous solo exhibitions, O'Keeffe had her first retrospective, Paintings by Georgia O'Keeffe, which opened at the Brooklyn Museum in 1927. By this time, she had become one of the most important and successful American artists, which was a major achievement for a female artist in the male-dominated art world. In the summer of 1929, O'Keeffe made her first visit to New Mexico. The landscape, architecture, and local Navajo culture inspired her, and she would return to New Mexico, which she called the Faraway, in the summers to paint. She painted iconic paintings such as Black Cross, New Mexico, cow skulls, red, white, and blue, and ram's head. In 1946, at the Museum of Modern Art, she was the first female in the museum's history to have a retrospective. O'Keeffe split her time between New York, living with Stieglitz, and painting in New Mexico. She was particularly inspired by Ghost Ranch, north of Abiquiu, and she decided to move into a house there. Through the 50s and 60s, O'Keeffe spent much of her time traveling the world, finding new inspirations for her work, including this aerial view seen in Sky Above Clouds 6. In her later years, O'Keeffe suffered from macular degeneration and began to lose her eyesight. While she painted her last painting solo in 1972, she continued on to create with the help of assistants. She once said at the age of 90, "I can see what I want to paint. The thing that makes you want to create is still there." In 1977, President Gerald Ford presented O'Keeffe with the Medal of Freedom, and in 1985, she received the National Medal of Arts. O'Keeffe died on March 6, 1986 in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but her pioneering legacy lives on not only through the amazing work she created, but through all those she inspired along the way. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to subscribe. It's completely free. And make sure you leave me a comment. I would love to know what you think about this episode. And be outrageous.